Welcome back, children, to the last part of the story. We are not afraid to die when we all can be together. So, here he says, I worked on the wind speeds, changes of course, drift, and current in an effort to calculate our position. So, he worked with the wind speeds, then changes of the course, the direction, the drift, and the current in order to find out the exact position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. So he realized that they were somewhere 150,000 kilometers in the ocean and they were looking for a small island which was 65 kilometers wide. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. She gave me a card she had made. So he was still thinking what to do. Just then Sue came along. She was moving very painfully because the left side of her head was very badly swollen and her eyes, they had been totally blackened. They were dark from below and they had been narrowed into slits. That means she could hardly open her eyes, open them wide. So she gave a card to her father which she had made. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people." Now, caricatures are actually caricature. It is a picture that exaggerates a person's features, the nose, the eyes, the lips, in order to produce a comic effect. So on there she had drawn the caricatures of Mary and her father, and the words were written, "There are some funny people. Did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well." So the words were there. These are funny people. Did you laugh looking at their pictures? I laughed a lot. Inside was a message, "Oh, how I love you both." So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. So inside the message was that I love both of you, and this card is just to say thank you and hope for the best. So somehow he knew that they had to make it to the island safely. I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass and I was using a spare which had not been corrected for magnetic variation. So he was checking and rechecking all his calculations, and right now he had lost his main compass which he used. He had lost it and now he was using the spare compass, and that had not been corrected for a long time for the magnetic variations which are very common on the sea. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. So anyhow, he made an allowance for that, and he again made a calculation taking into account the westerly currents, that is the westerly wind which blows in this part of the Indian Ocean, how far it could vary his calculation. He took that into account as well. About 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. If we were lucky, I told him with a conviction I did not feel, he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. So after making his calculations at about 2 p.m., he went on to the deck and he told Larry that to steer a course, that is to change the direction of the ship to 185 degrees. And he spoke with a conviction, that is very trying to sound very convincing. In reality, he did not feel confident himself, but he spoke very convincingly to Larry that if we are lucky, then we will be able to see the island about at 5 p.m. Then with a heavy heart I went below, climbed on my bunk and amazingly dozed off. Then with a very sad heart he went down into the cabin. He climbed on to his bunk, that is the bed on the side of the on the wall, and he didn't even realize he fell off to sleep. When I woke up at 6 p.m. and growing dark, I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds. So he suddenly woke up at 6 6 o'clock, and he realized it was becoming very dark, and he thought that they had missed the island because it was getting very dark, and with the sail he could not hope to be back on that place again. At that moment, a tousled head appeared by my bunk. So at that moment, just tousled means where the hair is totally disarranged in a very disorderly manner. The hair was all disarranged. It appeared by the bunk, and it said, "Can I have a hug?" Jonathan asked. Sue was right behind him. So it was Jonathan, and asked him that, "Can I hug you?" And Sue was behind him. "Why am I getting a hug now?" I asked. "Because you are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain," my son replied. So the father asked that, "Why am I getting a hug from you?" So the son replied, "Because you are the best daddy and the best captain." "Not today, John, I'm afraid." "Why, you must be," said Sue in the matter-of-fact voice. "You find the island." "What?" I shouted. So he said he was not in the mood. He went to bed with a heavy heart. So he said, "Not today, John, I'm sorry." So he said, the daughter said that, "You must be. You are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain because you found the island." So he was shocked, and he says, "What? We found the island? It's out there in front of us." They chorused. Chorus means they all sang together. "As big as a battleship." He says that it is right in front of us. Both of them spoke together. "It's like as huge as a battleship." I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of Isle Amsterdam. So quickly he rushed to the deck, and he gazed means he looked carefully with a relief at the stark means the bare outline of the island, that is the Isle Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock, so it was not very bright. It was a bleak piece of a volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. It had a little vegetation, but at this moment it was the best island in the whole world. We anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. So that night they anchored off the shore, and the next morning they went to the island, and there were 28 inhabitants on the island. They all cheered them, they applauded them, and welcomed them on the island. With land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie, cheerful and optimistic under the direst stress. So he was happy when he could feel the land under his feet, and he remembered Larry and Herbie, very happy, very positive in the direst stress. In the direst means the worst kind of stress and strain, they managed to be cheerful and positive. And of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours, and he also thought of his wife Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those difficult hours. Most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about a head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and the skull. And the 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. And then he thought of his daughter, just 7-year-old daughter, who did not want to worry her father with her head injury, which ultimately took 6 minor operations in order to remove that blood clot, which every time the doctors removed, it would form again. Recurring means forming again and again, and this clot was being formed between her skin and her skull. And he also thought about a 6-year-old boy who tells the father that I am not afraid to die as long as we all can be together. So I hope this story is clear to you. In my next video, I will go on with the next chapter. Thank you.